Hey guys, my name is Courtney and I'm one of the physios who works at Optimized Physiotherapy, and one of my specialties is women's pelvic health. So women's health is becoming something that's becoming more talked about, but still a lot more taboo than it should be. So just to give you an idea of how common it is, it really depends on the study that you read, but most cite between 25 to 45% of women will experience urinary incontinence at some point in their life. So if you think about that, that's 1 to 2 out of 4 women who you know who have or will experience this. So if you are experiencing something like this, it's important to know, one, that you're not alone, it's super common, but also that there's lots that you can do about this. So with the women who come and see me, we obviously do a individualized assessment, but when I ask them what they've been told when they've just chatted with their friends, most people just say to do their kegals. So first, kegals are not the answer to every single pelvic floor problem. Oftentimes, urinary leakage can be caused by muscles that are actually too tight, and so if you think about that, continuing to try and contract those muscles is not going to be super effective. The other thing is that a lot of women, probably most women, do this incorrectly by bringing in their abdominal muscles, their glute muscles, or their inner thigh muscles. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to go through a isolated pelvic floor contraction and how to do this correctly. All right, so when we're doing an isolated pelvic floor muscle, we really want to be isolating the pelvic floor muscles themselves and not using our abdominals or glutes or our inner thigh muscles. So lots of women, when they're worried that they're going to leak when they're laughing or they feel a sneeze coming on, they will squeeze their legs together, or they'll squeeze their bum, or they'll squeeze their abs thinking that they're engaging their pelvic floor muscles, but that actually is not super effective. And especially if you're using your abs, you can actually be pressing more pressure down onto the pelvic floor. So that's why it's critical that we try to not use those muscles. So with those pelvic floor muscles, some of the cues that I use to help women to connect to those muscles, number one is thinking about, try to contract the muscles that if you were trying to stop a stream of urine, what you would contract there. So it's important that you don't do that when you're actually going to the bathroom, because that can confuse some of the signals of the body when you want to go to the bathroom, but try to think about those muscles when you're practicing a Kegel. A couple other cues that can work are thinking about picking up a blueberry with those pelvic floor muscles, or thinking about elevator doors closing. So you want to think about those elevator doors closing and then lifting up towards the head, because ideally we will have a little bit of a sensation of lift towards your head. Okay, so I think that's okay. So now that we've gone through the cues on how to connect to those pelvic floor muscles, we're going to go through actually doing a pelvic floor contraction. So with most people, I find that it's easiest to do it in laying, because when you're in standing, you've got gravity working down on the pelvic floor muscles, and laying just takes that fully out of the equation, which can make it a little bit easier. So I'll get you to lay. Try with your knees bent, that tends to be the easiest, but again, you can play with this if you need to. So from here, I want you to put your hands on your stomach, and I want you to give that pelvic floor contraction a try. So what you're trying to feel for is if you're bringing your abdominal muscles in and contracting those as you're trying to contract your pelvic floor muscles. So we really want to try and separate these two movements, because if we contract our abdominal muscles, we're going to be creating more pressure that our pelvic floor has to hold against. So you're gonna have a feel through your abs, and then you're gonna put your hands on your glute muscles, and you're gonna feel if you're engaging those guys. And then once you've got that pelvic floor contraction without the glutes, I want you to think about whether you're engaging your inner thigh muscles. If you see your legs coming together, then you're definitely using them. But again, you can definitely put your hands on your legs to see if you're engaging them there. So once you feel like you've got a good isolation, and this might take a couple days, it might be something that doesn't come to you very naturally. And again, you can definitely come see a pelvic floor physio who can help you out with this, but don't panic if it's not automatically easy. But once you feel like you've got a good isolation, it's good to definitely check that you're not engaging those other muscles every now and again. But I want you to connect this to your breath. So ideally, the diaphragm and the pelvic floor kind of work together. So as you take a nice deep breath in and your diaphragm goes down, your pelvic floor should relax. So I want you to think about, as you're taking a nice deep breath in, you're fully relaxing the pelvic floor. And then as you breathe out, that diaphragm is going to come up, and so that's when I want you to think about doing that contraction, and thinking about just having that pelvic floor contract and lift a little bit up towards your head. So with this, once you've got that down, you can do this 2 sets of 10 in the day, and that'll definitely set you on your way to having a nice, strong, healthy pelvic floor.